Welcome back to These Things Are Written on this Monday. So glad that you're joining us as we are continuing to read in 1 Corinthians chapter 7. We're going to read the rest of the chapter starting with verse 24 as Paul continues his discussion on being married or being single. Let's start verse 25. Now concerning the betrothed, I have no command from the Lord, but I give my judgment as one who by the Lord's mercy is trustworthy. I think that in view of the present distress, it is good for a person to remain as he is. Are you bound to a wife? Do not seek to be free. Are you free from a wife? Do not seek a wife. But if you do marry, you have not sinned, and if a betrothed woman marries, she has not sinned. Yet those who marry will have worldly troubles, and I would spare you that. This is what I mean, brothers. The appointed time has grown short. From now on, let those who have wives live as though they have had none, and those who mourn as though they were not mourning, and those who rejoice as though they were not rejoicing, and those who buy as though they had no goods, and those who deal with the world as though they had no dealing with it. For the present form of this world is passing away. As we look at this beginning, he says, this is not a command of the Lord, but it is my words, my judgment as one who by the Lord's mercy is trustworthy. Again, giving his educated opinion on this, I guess you could say. And as we look at it, we are going to be examining. We need to keep this in the background, I guess. He's saying, really, whatever your current situation, stay in it. Why? Because the day is short. Whether you are married, whether you are single, continue in that. The day is short. In other words, the Lord is coming soon. So focus your time on doing what we need to do as the church and not be distracted by the things of this world. I'm going to pick up now with verse 32. I want you to be free from anxieties. The unmarried man is anxious about the things of the Lord, how to please the Lord. But the married man is anxious about worldly things, how to please his wife, and his interests are divided. And the unmarried and the betrothed woman is anxious about the things of the Lord, how to be holy in body and spirit. But the married woman is anxious about worldly things, how to please her husband. I say this for your own benefit, not to lay any restraint upon you, but to promote good order and to secure your undivided devotion to the Lord. If anyone thinks he is not behaving properly towards his betrothed, if his passions are strong, it has to be. Let him do as he wishes. Let them marry. It is no sin, but whoever is firmly established in his heart, being under no necessity, but having his desire under control, and has determined this in his heart to keep her as his betrothed, he will do well. So then he who marries his betrothed does well, and he who refrains from marriage will do even better. A wife is bound to her husband as long as he lives, but if her husband dies, she is free to be married to whom she wishes, only in the Lord. Yet in my judgment, she is happier if she remains as she is. And I think that I too have the Spirit of God. As we look at this, we find a few things about why Paul thinks it's necessary, or why Paul is saying, if you're single, continue to be single. That it's better not to be married. Why? First of all, verses 29 through 31 talk about the time being short. The understanding that the Lord is coming soon. There's a lot to do, and we shouldn't be distracted by things of this world. We should be free of anxiety, 32 through 35. And he says that the interest will be divided. And yes, I have to admit that sometimes it would be easier for me to be a pastor if I wasn't married. But yet, that is what God has given to me. And to be honest, I think that sometimes, and then I realize No, God has given me my helpmate. He has given me Deb for the purpose of strengthening me in my marriage and strengthen me in my calling as a pastor as well. So he's looking at this from a worldly standpoint, but yet with a godly wife, a godly husband, we are strengthened by each other as well. Verse 36, he starts talking about the betrothed. The betrothed is being committed to a marriage. It's being engaged on steroids, you could say, right? You're engaged and you cannot back out of it. You've already made that commitment as you are preparing for marriage. He says, if you're content, then focus on the things of above. In other words, if your passions are not getting the best of you, it's not necessary to marry unless, again, those passions are strong. He says, really, it's okay, one way or the other. He's not commanding. He's not denying. He's not saying one is better than the other. It depends on the person. So is it better for you to remain married or to be single? You know what? That's for you to decide God's will in your life, for you to listen to his word and follow his guidance as he may bring you to that spouse. And if you're in a marriage, guess what? That's where God wants you to be. Whether it's a strong marriage or not so strong, if you're having troubles, God desires us to work hard to make that marriage work. I could go on for this much longer than I have, but I'm going to wrap it up there. Tomorrow we'll be starting to look at 1 Corinthians chapter 8 as we move to a new topic. We'll talk to you then.